Hey guys, it's Sang, and I'd like to start off saying thank you guys for being so patient. It's been like 2 months since I've made that big 10K video where I promised I'd make a Q&A, and I'm how many subscribers do I have now? Like 30,000? Christ, there's so many of you now. Anyway, I made a promise and I have time now, so I'm finally making that video where I answer your questions. Well, first I'll talk a little bit about myself. I'm a high school senior right now. I'm 18. And yes, I've chosen a college. No, I'm not gonna specify which one it is, but it's mostly not too far away, liberal arts. It's a pretty good place. I've always been interested in art when I was little. I've started doing digital art in 2009, and it was like MS Paint stuff. It wasn't, there are so many kids nowadays that are so talented, but like back in the day, I just drew Kirby's and stick figures. Like, I had no idea I would be where I am now. And if you look way back in my channel, you can see that I did dabble in a bit of animation. I would recommend not looking back there, but whatever. So I did have some experience animating before last year. A lot of you have been asking me, oh, what art tools do you have, or like what are your programs? So I'm gonna try to make them more available in my video description, so you don't have to listen to this big video to look for them. But I use a Wacom Intuos tablet. It's very small. It's not even $100 for the small size. I've had it for a couple years now, and it's been serving me pretty well. Program-wise, I've been using Painttool Sai. It's very good for like not just beginners, but for just like a steady program. And video editing wise, I've always used Windows Movie Maker because it's free. It's already on the computer. I have been shifting a little bit away from it nowadays because it has some limits. I've actually been using this program called videopad video editor, which if you scrounge around online, I'm sure you can find it. So another question is, how do I develop my art style? Well, your art style doesn't come naturally, because as an artist, you always have to like build to a certain place. Like sometimes, like you look at another artist and be like, oh, I like how they draw their eyes, so I'm just gonna draw my eyes this way. And that, yes, people may consider it copying, but for the growing artist, stuff like that is necessary, because like you're looking to other people, and slowly but surely you'll be like, oh, I think I draw eyes like this, but I might find it a little more comfortable if I draw it like this. And sooner or later you find out that, hey, I have my own thing altogether that doesn't really quite look like this person's or this person's art style anyway. So it just comes naturally. Don't try to focus on making it so original or so out there, and on the other side, don't aim to replicate like the art of someone you admire, because it's always good to find the middle ground and just like find what you find comfortable, but also urge yourself to like go for diversity, go for originality, and just do what you're comfortable with. Honestly, art should be fun. And I know there are like a lot of jokes that they're like art is like stressful, art is so terrible, and believe me, I've had moods where that is very relevant. But in the end, you're drawing what you want. The reason why I draw or like make animatics videos is because I want to see content for a specific thing that I don't see enough of, or like I try to interpret things a way that maybe most people don't do, and I just want to like input my view on that. So just draw for yourself. You'll figure it out. And some of you have been asking me for general art advice. Rule number 1, I'm sure a lot of people have told you this already, but practice. Always practice. And there's no set guideline for this. Like, like you can draw every day or like every now and then. Like if you find yourself sketching, just like do a little doodle. As long as your pencil or your tablet pen or whatever is at the paper, then you're making steps forward. If you want to improve, like one of the reasons why making animatics and like videos is good for me is because I have to draw the same characters like over and over with like poses and whatnot, and that helps me draw stuff like hands or just like different poses or stuff. It just helps me draw things better when I draw them repeatedly, and so I definitely find it useful to just practice all the time. And if you've seen the stuff I've drawn before, I used to be a channel called sangspeaks. That was an old username, and I still have my Deviantart profile up. And if you look there, I used to draw so much Kirby and just like so much very like niche obsessions. And so tip number 2 would definitely be like if you ever find yourself obsessed with something, just like let it out by drawing some stuff with it. Like not only will you find yourself like more like engaged with that specific fandom, is that you'll find yourself more like willing to commit to the art when you're doing it, being like, oh my god, I love this character, or I love these two together, or like whatever. Like because drawing my obsessions throughout the years have definitely helped me. It just helps you feel motivated. Tip number 3, I'd recommend using a lot of references, and that includes like maybe doing some research, looking at speed paints, looking up lots of poses made by actual models so you can get the anatomy right down. Because it's, as someone who has to often draw the same person over and over again, it can be really tempting to be like, oh, I can just wing it, which is like fun for a little bit, but at one point you have to be like, okay, I don't know how this hand is gonna look like, and you have to look up references. You don't have to study them, like this isn't a class, but it's always good to refer to how things look in real life and then kind of translate that to like a digital medium. And I guess rule number 4, this is specifically for people who, you know, who are into digital art or are looking for like an online platform. Always post your stuff. One of the biggest regrets I had when I was younger, maybe like 14ish, is that I was so used to drawing in my sketchbook as drawing traditionally, and then not really drawing things digitally. So only I would see the art I made, and then later I would wonder, oh, I wish I could have posted stuff earlier, so then I could kind of build up an online like portfolio almost sooner. Because when you look at your sketchbook, they're mostly just like sketches, that's all they are. But when you work on things digitally, then you can like expand upon them and make them more like full and complete. And especially if you're young, that's what I recommend. Just post stuff and always like look for feedback. Like there are going to be people out there who may be a little picky on what you have to give, but sometimes there will be people out there who there's criticism, and it's always difficult to receive criticism for the first time, but it's also important to see what other people have to say, because you don't have to change for them, but you have to keep in mind like what other people may think. Like what if someone says, hey, I feel like you, like the arm looks a little off here, here's some advice I can give to you, and you'll be like, oh, that's kind of embarrassing that they caught that, but I'm still happy that I can have someone to like be like, oh, I can just fix this because I knew something was off about that. Also, this applies to like, you know, if you don't, like if there's like a canonically darker skinned character and you accidentally make them a little lighter than they're supposed to be, it's a learning process. It's all about growth. And if someone's like, hey, you drew this, I feel like you didn't draw this character with a big enough nose, you could be like, oh, okay. Just for stuff like that, it's always important to grow from your mistakes. So a lot of you have been asking about my animatics advice for that. I guess I've only been really doing them for a few months, but I guess my major advice would be, if it's whether it's for a song, for a musical, or if it's for like dialogue, or it's for like a funny joke, it's always important to time things so the rhythm matches, because that's kind of like cinematography 101, is that the framing and like the timing of the frames, if it matches the hits or like the punchlines, then the energy of that video kind of like comes out more. Is there something internal about that, like the rhythm? There's something I can't quite explain about that, but it's important to go back and like rewatch them over and over, like listen really closely, and just like, especially for songs, like to match up the frames exactly. But it'll pay off in the end. For animatics of Heather's, especially the ones that are mainly like very heavily storyboarding, always make sure to plan them out beforehand. Like, I'm sure people do go in and like just like sketch it out right there and then just bust out all the frames. But for me personally, I always take like a piece of paper and then draw like a comic style bunch of panels, and then try to like draw every frame from like with every like lyric and see how they would look like. Sometimes I would start somewhere in the middle because I have more of an idea. Sometimes I just like go back and forth, but it's always good to plan out the whole thing beforehand so you don't have any like missing pieces and you're like, oh, I can't change that because I'm already like going straight on. I guess the last advice I have about animatics is always do it for fun. Like, this applies to art too, but for animatics especially, it can always be tempting to be like, oh, I want to do this song because a lot of people do this song and they get so many views and I can get the views. There's no harm in doing that, but you'll find that sometimes doing an animatic is a little draining, and then afterwards when you're done and you don't get quite the response you want, it can be really disappointing. So it's always important to do it because you want to do it, or because you like the song, or because you like to draw the characters in the situation. Because then if the views come in, then that's good. But if they don't, it's like you got it over with and you did what you wanted, so that's good too. So now this is about personal stuff. There's a lot of Steven Universe on my channel, and a lot of you have been asking me, oh, what's your favorite character? The purple in my profile might give it away, but my favorite character is definitely Amethyst. She's like the most fun to draw. I originally wasn't that into her character because she seemed a little brash at the beginning, but the more I learned about her, the more I kind of like fell in love with her, because I have a huge weakness for female characters who often don't get enough like attention to their backstory, or like don't get enough like appreciation from the creators or the fan base. And I feel like in the Crystal Gems, Amethyst kind of gets the short end of the stick a lot of the time. So yeah, in that, she's my favorite. Of their homeworld gems, I definitely love Peridot and Jasper, because there's just a lot of material you can get from them, like comedically. I've drawn a lot of comics before, and animatics of those two specifically. And yes, I do like Jasper. And Connie's probably my favorite human. My favorite fusion is tough, but I really like Sardonyx and how fun she is. Second would probably be Smoky Quartz, even though they really didn't appear that often. These are characters I should definitely draw more. And a lot of you have been asking, what are your favorite Steven Universe ships? This is I don't even know if this should be in here because it's pretty freaking obvious if you see from my speed paints. The first ship I've liked is Prometheus, and I still like it. Like, even though it seems there's a little less attention being brought to it because now there's so many more characters they can interact with, it's still one of my big favorites, and it has a special place in my heart. And speaking of Amethyst, I also like Amethyst and Peridot. I don't know, it's just Well, first of all, I like the way purple and green work together. Just color combinations are my weakness. And I just think that they make a really interesting couple. And yes, I do pair gems with like multiple other gems. It's like, I don't know, who cares? Like, Amethyst can have as many girlfriends as she wants. Like, if the show's not gonna give her enough time with those girls, then like I sure as hell will. The next one would probably be Jaspidot, because I'm a huge sucker for villain relationships, and back in the day when Peridot and Jasper were more like a Team Rocket villain-esque, like kind of goofy but still mildly threatening. Their whole dynamic was like really interesting to me, like the nerd and the jock. And another one is Polygems, which is Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl in like a big, loving, polyamorous rock pile. And just like, because of their dynamic as Steven's three moms, it's just good, man. It's pure. There should be, I hope there are more episodes in the future where it's their dynamic as three moms, more than like three women who have problems, and then also Steven helps them with their problems. You know? Let's just let moms be moms. So a lot of you have been asking about Heathers too. People have been asking my favorite song. It would definitely be the most iconic one is by far Dead Girl Walking. Even though the animatic I made for it is a little unconventional in comparison to my other art, I'm still so glad I did it, because oh my god, it's so like funny, and like the writers definitely knew what they were doing. Probably the second, I do love Candy Store, even though it was a shame I wasn't able to animate that in any form. I just feel like with that song in particular, there wasn't much room for interpretation for an animatic that other people haven't done already. So I felt like it would be a little bit redundant if I did it, because it was literally just be like the same thing, but they're just in my style, which I feel like wouldn't be quite enough incentive to put all that time into. So y'all have been asking for my Heathers pairings. I do think of Veronica as bisexual, so I do like to see her like with some of the Heathers, but like even though that it can be said that Veronica and any Heather could be like kind of questionable in a way because they did bully her, but in like just like a fun, oh, like what if something happened there, then I do think like a Heather Chandler and Veronica would be really interesting. Heather McNamara and Veronica is pretty popular within the fandom, and I do have to admit it does have its charm, even though I do think that contrary to what some people think, like McNamara isn't entirely innocent in this whole thing. She might have gone along with it, but she was still, a Heather. So it's not exactly a pure and unproblematic pairing, but I do think it's cute, and I do like it. I also like Veronica and Martha because I don't know. I just want to see them happy, and like they're alive at the end. So, and some of you have been asking, oh, what are your future animatics? What other songs are you planning to do? Are you gonna do the whole musical? So here's the plan. Originally I went in order so I could go through the main songs and then eventually get to the end. But with the timing of everything and I've been thinking, so I'm working on the next one right now, right? And then I'm gonna take a break from Heathers for a little bit after I finish this next one. And then there's a chance I might come back to it and do some of the smaller songs, like Lifeboat, Shine Light, Repris. And I'm actually not sure if I'm going to finish the whole musical. It's a pretty daunting task. And if I don't, then like there are a lot of other really talented people who've given their hand at drawing out what happens in the end. So like whatever. It's just like if I don't do it, I don't do it. And there are other people out there. So for your Heathers. And some of you have been asking what other musicals would I recommend. So I know this might be a question that I could answer because like Heathers is a musical and I'm doing it. I don't actually know too much about too many musicals. I really only watched a few. Like I watched the Matilda musical on Broadway at one point. That was a lot of fun, and just some of them I remember just for being like lasting a long time and just like being known for being incredible. Would definitely be like Wicked, Little Shop of Horrors, Legally Blonde, definitely. And some of the more recent ones like Dear Evan Hansen, I would definitely recommend checking out. And a lot of you have been asking about Game Grumps, which is interesting because I haven't actually done a Game Grumps specific like drawing Aaron and Danny animatic, but I have done some crossovers. So some of you asked me, "Oh, do you want to watch Game Grumps?" And yes, I do. I have grown a little out of love with it because I feel like some of its content being a little, I'm gonna make a weirdly offensive joke, but we know it's offensive and we can laugh about it, and it's like it's so like fucked up, and that's why it's funny, and so I heard that fairly recently, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna take a little break from Game Grumps, but don't worry, I still love him, and I'll still like include them in some of my animatics, just like in small snippets, or maybe just like a big one, who knows. Other interests, oh my gosh, I'm really showing my fandom phases in this one, but I'm always a huge fan of Homestuck. I have been since 2012 actually. I joined the fandom pretty late in the game actually. And other TV shows I like, Star Versus, I've done like 2 speed paints for them. Pretty solid show, I'd say. It's good in a different way from something like Steven Universe, because something about the comedy of it just like sticks better. And even though there's obviously like less, gay representation at like Steven Universe, but it still does a lot of like just like nice, good writing, good humor, good art as well. So yeah, Star Versus would recommend. Oh yeah, one more thing. I am not gonna make any Hamilton animatics. Like, this is not up for debate. I'm not doing it. Like, never. And what inspired me to start animating? Funny story. There used to be this person on YouTube. Like, this is really far back, like 2008ish. There was this person called Purple Triforce who would make these MS Paint drawings, and then kind of like my early Kirby videos, they would just kind of like draw these things, put them together to like dialogue, and it was so funny to me, and I was like, oh, I could do something like that. And so that's what I kind of tried with my earlier Kirby videos. And Ed's World was also like a big source of inspiration for me, even though I didn't quite go into like the Adobe Flash style animation like they did. And some of you has been asking, oh, what's your gender, what's your sexuality, and like I'm totally fine with just letting things out like this. Like what? It's you guys. I'm a cis girl. I use she, her pronouns. Sang is really just a nickname, but it's just like something, it's just a name I'm comfortable with. It's short for Sang-hee, which is my full name because I'm Korean as fuck, and I'm bisexual, and that's why I draw a lot of just mainly women, is because just drawing girls is like the best. To be honest, it's the best. Alright guys, that'll be enough for this. This is probably the longest, actually no, I can confirm this is the longest video I've made. Again, I apologize for this being late. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope this answered any of your questions. If not, if you have any remaining questions, you can just comment them down below. There's a chance I could get to them. And, yeah. Hope you have a good one. See ya.